Can we go in the other room now? So just as people are joining, please do just add your name to the chat and where you're from. If you have a Reduces organization, that's great. And I'll go ahead and get started by just a little opener about what's happening in Washington, D.C., not overall,
Oh,
but
yes,
with
please.
respect to an area that is near and dear to our hearts. I actually wanted to give a quick update on the bottle bill. We are trying to introduce a bottle bill in DC. And if you are from a state that has a bottle bill, there are 10 of them. Maybe drop something in the chat about that as well. Oops, hold on, the dog is hiding now. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that.
We're gonna need to meet this dog.
So on the very direct front, I am the founder of DC Reduces, and we have about 70 shops in DC with the sticker in the window. A lot of coffee shops, some dry cleaners, some mom and pop grocery stores. But I just wanted to give a quick update for those of you who follow the bottle bill stuff that's going on in the country. And I know there's at least one other person from the area, Brenda Platt, from DC. We have successfully, the DC Council successfully introduced a bill that was almost voted on. It was introduced by 12 out of the 13 council members. They co-introduced it, which is great support. That happened shortly before the inauguration. And we were very excited about it. Things have slowed down a little bit, and we've just gotten a budget bill introduced by the mayor last week, which is a scorched earth kind of thing in terms of anything environmental. So
yeah.
that's concerning. But with respect to the bottle bill, we're just moving it apace as much as we can, drumming up support by putting flyers out, giving them out at metro stops, trying to garner support for those of you who know DC, we are divided into what's called ANC's Advisory Neighborhood Commissions. There are a few dozen of them, and 15 of them have actually introduced letters in support of introducing a bottle bill. So we're working at that level. We're working with the faith community. We're talking to businesses as well. Council members are talking to businesses. And our hope is that it's sitting in committee now, and we'll move over to the environmental committee sometime this summer. And our hope is that we will have a hearing over the summer. Maybe it'll slip into the fall. And with any luck, we'll have a vote within the year. So certainly we're hoping by the end of the year or early next year. So that's where it stands right now. For those of you in states that are trying to introduce them, I know our neighbors in Maryland are trying to introduce a bill as well. We are already seeing beverage companies predictably start to put up posters trying to say how terrible a bottle bill will be for poor people in DC, describing the 10-cent deposit as a tax, which it is not. So we're up against quite predictable opposition from the beverage companies, since they are the ones that will have to pay for the programs that help the system get off the ground in terms of collection of bottles. But we are excited, and we still feel there's a path forward, and we are moving along that path. And I say we because I'm part of a coalition that is the DC Bottle Bill Coalition that's trying to introduce this bill. I'm part of that through the DC chapter of Sierra Club. Anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions about the bottle bill. This is not a bottle bill meeting, but Yayoi asked me to give a little bit of an opener on what's happening in DC right now. So those are the good things happening in DC right now. We've got about 23 of you on the line so far. If anyone has joined since I said this, please do add your name and where you're joining us from. And I want to just go ahead and jump into the agenda. So we're going to have announcements in a moment by Yayoi. We've got a great program this evening. I'm very excited about the program. Annie of Petaluma is going to talk about the program there in California. We've got two phenomenal guest speakers, Dan Knapp and Lous Van Deventer. I hope I said your name correctly, the founders of Urban Ore, and I cannot wait to hear their story. We will, as always, have our breakout sessions, and there'll be an opportunity for you to say this time if you want to join up with anyone in particular for that session, and then we'll have our wrap up. We will be done, I promise, my commitment, we will be done by 8:30. Obviously, if anyone needs to leave sooner, that's fine, but we hope you'll stay with us through the end, because I think anyone who's ever stayed through the breakout socials knows we really have rich conversation and a lot of fun. So with that, let me turn it over to Yayoi for the exciting announcements.
Thank you. If you could move the slide to the next one, that'd be great. Thank you. First announcement, new groups. We have a few dozens of groups around the country, and New York is going pretty strong. We have now 10 groups with these two new additions. One is Southern Tier Reduces, which covers areas bordering the Pennsylvania. So the southern end of New York State. And also we have Capital District Reduces that they just sent me the sticker design today, which is super exciting. And Capital District in New York is Albany. So we got Albany joining the force. So congratulations for the launch to Emily, Kristen, Amanda, and the rest of the team. And Lester is also from Zero Risk Capital District, which houses Capital District Reduces. So congratulations to everybody. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, and announcement next month, not next month, in August, we meet bi-monthly. We gather bi-monthly for fun, inspiring, way. And we usually have enlightening talk by wonderful guest speakers. Today we have people from Urban Ore, the original reuse store in Berkeley, California. But in August, we will have Kelly Dennings. She has been in charge of Food Code Committee, Federal Food Code Committee, organized by Center for Biological Diversity and Upstream, etc. And she's gonna share, what she knows about Federal Food Code and how, as it pertains to BYO actions at the state level. So if you're interested in that, please come, and she's gonna share everything she knows. So, and yeah, next slide, please. And by the way, please register, and EU can drop the, yes, thank you, EU. She dropped the August registration. So please register now. And dunking campaign, we have been, for those who are new, we've been working on dunking and other companies, chain corporations who do not accept cups for our BYO actions, bring your own actions, to accept cups in the list, since that's allowed across the country in most places. So we have about 300 signatures, and it's going to be submitted soon. Okay, next slide. Thank you. If you'd like to be matched up for the social, we will have as Stephanie showed us in agenda, after the guest speakers talk, we will have a breakout group. And so if you want to be matched up with someone, please send a message to Amy and she will be able to help match up the people. Okay, thank you. And the next is I'd like to introduce Annie Stewart from, I hope I'm not messing up the pronunciation again, Petaluma? Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay, Petaluma.
Petaluma, you've got
Petaluma,
it.
California. It's north of San Francisco. Petaluma Reduces from Petaluma, California. And she started a BYO program with her organization, Petaluma. And so she's going to share how's it going. And so we will be inspired. So we have a mini presentation by the local groups, and we have a big presentation after this by our guest speaker. So please take it away, Annie.
Okay. I can go ahead and share my screen.
Hmm.
Okay.
Mm.
So yes, I'm with an organization in Petaluma called Cool Petaluma, and we work to inspire climate action through community building and cultural change. And certainly zero waste, working towards zero waste is a really big piece of that. You might have heard, those of you that are on the East Coast and other places, you may have heard of Petaluma because our city was chosen to do by Closed Loop Partners to do a reusable cup project, which was a 2-month pilot using polypropylene cups. And it did get people talking about reuse, and it kept 220,000 disposable cups out of landfill. But we at Cool Petaluma really wanted to move away from plastic as much as possible and get people moving away. So we launched our BYO Cup campaign last fall and joined US Reduces. So our first step was to add a page to several pages to our website on about our BYO campaign. And then we created, you're not going to be able to see all my stuff, but I think it's okay. We created a couple of things for the cafe owners to kind of help orient them a little bit, try to move them away from any of the plastic, whether it's single-use paper cups or, other types of plastic cups, towards BYO for taking out your coffee or tea, or for here cups when people are staying in. And then we also put together a flyer, BYO is the way to go, just explaining why do BYO, and letting people know it's safe and it's legal, and here's what you can do if you're a cafe owner, and here's what you can do if you're a consumer. And then, of course, we did the window clings and stickers. And John Crawley, who owns a cafe in town, is also a Cool Petaluma co-founder. And so he reached out to the businesses. He's really well known, and that helped him to enlist people to participate. So we have about 15 businesses signed up so far, but we certainly know we can do better than that. We also had an editorial written by another one of our Cool Petaluma co-founders that went into our little local newspaper, and we also promoted this in our newsletter. We've developed some bus shelter ads, and these have not been put up yet, but we've gotten some really significant help from different organizations for this. So the city is letting us use their space on their city buses for free. And then Zero Waste Sonoma, our Joint Powers Authority for Zero Waste, has given us a mini grant. And another person in our organization has given us a donation to do the printing for these ads. So we've gotten some really, really great community support. The other thing that we've done is we've created some videos, again, with the help of a videographer and an animation expert in town and a few community members. And we came up with a kind of a fun quiz format for these 1 to 2 minute videos. So I just wanted to share one with you.
Hi, my name is Molly Bell, and I'm a senior at Casa Grande High School. I have a question for you. Does my paper cup get a second chance at life? Which of the following answers is correct? Yes, it gets composted into soil. Yes, it's recycled. Or no, it goes to the landfill to die. Congratulations, the correct answer is no, it goes to the landfill to die. Please join us and bring your own cup the next time you grab a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I don't think you could have found a more enthusiastic person to help us with that. So that was fun. And then the city has also promoted this campaign through their newsletter, and that's gone out to 25,000 people. And also our waste hauler, Recology Sonoma Marin, has put it in their newsletter. So we've been really getting a lot of great support. Petaluma Downtown Association has offered to promote BYO on their screen at their visitor center. We're going to follow up with that soon. So those are some of the things that we're working on, and we'd love to pick people's brains about other ways. You know, we're not great with social media. I have to just admit that. So we are going to keep promoting our videos through social media and other channels, but we want to, you know, come up with some other ideas, and maybe having people do, you know, selfies with their cups at the cafes, and, you know, with hashtag mugshots, and of course hashtag US Reduces. And we just kind of want to kind of keep this in people's front of mind, you know, BYO, all kinds of BYO, but starting with cups. So that's it, and open to any questions, comments, or suggestions. And if anybody wants to email me, that's my email address, annie.stewart@coolpetaluma.org.
I don't know if there are other questions. I actually have a question. First of all, congratulations. So impressive what you've done. I love the video. I love the fact that you've gotten the city to endorse your program, and you've inspired me that I'm going to go ask the city whether they could do the same in DC. My question is, with all this great publicity, are you seeing an uptake in reusables, or are you able to measure that?
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that we've been toying with ways to measure that. And it's kind of tough, right? Unless you've got, like, one idea we had, and I just don't know how practical it is to give the cafe owners little clickers, and each time somebody comes in and is using BYO, you know, bringing in their own cup, that they could, you know, take note of that, or have a chalkboard or something. It's just really hard to tell, you know, if it's making a difference. So I really would like to figure out some way to measure. And so those are just a few of our ideas, but, you know, I'm open to other ideas.
Well, there's the old method of sampling. You just maybe post somebody for an hour or something, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, and then
Hmm?
extrapolate from whatever data you have to the full amount.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got you know, we have a relatively progressive and involved community. So, but I think we can move this along even more than we have. So, yeah. Any other question?
Petaluma is one of the best places on earth, I think, to live.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, we're
boy,
pretty lucky.
a great place.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
It's a wonderful place. You can piggyback on the all the cafes who use your stickers and who buy your stickers can post selfies from the sticker people. Post it on Instagram and link it to your Instagram. You need an Instagram, and if you can't do an Instagram, I can't do Instagram. But we have youthful staff who were born with an Instagram chip in their brain. And if you get them to link or to receive postings from the cafes, you'll have hundreds within a couple of weeks. And then you
Yeah.
will start generating followers, and followers generate more followers. And it just is amazing how it ramps up and you hardly have to do anything. It's very useful and very low cost.
We did a little of that in the beginning, and I think we've just got to keep with it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, you do.
And we just, to be honest, we've got so many events and things, other things we're doing unrelated to this that, you know, we just need to have somebody that really focuses on it a lot more, the social media piece.
Yeah. Instagram is the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So, anything else?
Thanks so much, Annie. Yeah, anyone else with any questions? Oh, Kathy is suggesting you get a summer student intern. Very timely.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea.
I saw Paul.
Great.
I was wondering if you could get the cafes to get their reusable mugs from all the reuse operations in your town.
Yeah, that's definitely something we've talked about. Yeah,
Mhm.
good idea.
Because that might be a way of showing what numbers are involved. If you could say so many hundreds of reusable cups have been delivered, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, great. Thanks for your ideas.
Yes, that is an excellent idea because right now is a dumpster season. Well, it just ended. You know,
Yes.
move out, college move out, and we
Mhm.
saw so many mugs in the dumpsters, and I wish I could. If you give me just a second, I can show you. Like I'm coming back with these.
Oh my goodness.
These are donated from some. I wouldn't say I dumpster dive myself, definitely not. But you know, these were donated by very generous Cornell University students. So I mean, these are very nice stainless steel mugs, double insulated. I think that's totally a good point to. What we do in Ithaca is we put this like a little stickers of the mini version of the sticker that we give to stores, and add it to those mugs, and then give away for free at the festival tablings, and it fries off the our tables. So these are really nice mugs. So yeah, I definitely, and there are so many at the reuse centers as well at the fraction of cost. You will have to pay for a new one. So
Great ideas. Yayoi, do you want to go ahead and introduce our speakers?
absolutely, yes. I'm gonna start talking about the urban ore first because you know, for some of you here, it is very quite a familiar name. But so for those who don't know, urban ore is founded in 1980 in Berkeley, California. And Dan and Mary Lou, if I got anything incorrect, please correct me. And it's one of the nation's pioneering reuse enterprises, established by Dr. Dan Knapp and Mary Lou Van Deventer. Urban ore began by salvaging reusable materials directly from the city's landfill. The mission to end the age of waste has guided the organization in diverting thousands of tons of materials from landfills annually. Today, Urban Ore operates a 3-acre facility that serves as both a retail outlet and a model for zero waste practices nationwide. And Dan is a sociologist and co-founder of Urban Ore, a pioneering reuse and recycling enterprise, and with a Ph.D. in sociology. Dr. Knapp has been instrumental in developing the 12 master categories of discarded resources, a framework that has influenced zero waste practices globally. His work has been recognized in publications such as Berkeley Side and East Bay Express. And Mary Lou Van Deventer is an environmental journalist and co-owner of Urban Noir. And since its founding, she has played a crucial role in managing special projects and advocating for zero waste initiatives. Her efforts has been highlighted in various platforms, including National Zero Waste Conference and East Bay Express. So thank you so very much for being here today. And oh, I should not forget to mention, Dan and Mary Lou was featured in the Valentine's special.
We were, yes.
So I'm looking forward to receive that article, link to the article, so we can share on the newsletter. So so there are a couple. So and thank you very much for being here today. And please take it away.
Thank you so much for having us. It's all about that first kiss. It was a wonderful thing. So, so I will be sharing my screen. Dan, do you want to start? Or how did we worked on
I
this?
thought
How
it'd
did-
be best if you started because your graphic of the methane around
Oh, yeah,
is
okay.
important. And then I'll jump in when you show the first slide of the Berkeley dump from where I was.
Alrighty, we're gonna really run through these. We have 48 slides in 30 minutes. So here we go. Put on your seatbelts. Now this slideshow was actually made 10 years ago now for the 45th anniversary of Earth Day, but we want to show it to you because you wanted to know about our history. And this is our history orientation. We show this slideshow to all of our incoming staff so that they know what in the world they're signing up for. And they come to work anyway. So here we go. I am an environmental journalist. This is an advertisement that we ran on the back cover. We take the back cover of a quarterly environmental magazine.
Mary Lou, we can't see the slides though.
Not up yet, Mary Lou.
Uh-oh.
You
Here,
just have to share the screen again.
Okay. Let's see. Sharing the screen.
Well, I could speak while she's doing that. That globe on the back is the first slide, and that shows the
How's
distribution
that?
of methane
Yes.
in the atmosphere.
Okay.
Here we are.
Okay, yes, here we are, and we're in the slideshow view. There we go. Okay, yes. This is a NASA image that we have used in advertising and that I use in my background for Zoom. NASA in 1999 measured, they measured gases in the atmosphere and they decided they were going to measure methane. And so they turned the methane green. And there used to be on NASA's website an animation of this, and you can, as the Earth rotates, I have a little video of it. As the Earth rotates, you can watch the methane lap the lower shores of Antarctica, and you'll notice how it spins. It tends to be generated a lot in Central America, and it spins to the poles. Well, for human activity, landfills are the largest contributor, human activity, larger than vehicles or anything else. Landfills are the largest contributor to methane of human activity. So that's why landfilling is so important. And here you can get an idea of why the poles are melting faster than anybody predicted. It's the methane, and the methane is from the landfills, and the landfills are from people being thoughtless. So here we are. Urbanor does have a sense of purpose, this company with a purpose. The statement of purpose, this is our statement of purpose written by Daniel Knapp, to end the age of waste. And we figure we'll never get there, but it doesn't, you sail by the North Star, even if you're not going to get to the North Star. That's what you use to sail. Oops. Okay. And we pursue our purpose by operating a salvaging and reuse operation. We try to attain zero waste in our operations, and we're really close. We design discard management centers. We don't call it waste. The last slide is going to be Dan saying waste isn't waste until it's wasted. But so we just call it discards. You can do anything with a discard. You recover it and you turn it back into a resource. So we want to replace landfills. There's no need to landfill. And we advocate for zero waste and total recycling by doing whatever we can figure out how to do. We salvage it, we still salvage at the City of Berkeley Solid Waste Transfer Station, but it's now called the Zero Waste Transfer Station. We receive discards that people bring us 360 days a year, and we pick things up when people call us. And this is where we began salvaging. And oops.
Mary Lou, my turn.
Yeah, it is, if I can figure out how to get back to where I was.
All right.
There
Well,
we go. Okay,
there we
Dan.
go. I don't know. I think I took this picture, and I worked at the landfill. I oftentimes was across the road at the top of the landfill, dealing with the metals that I was pulling out. What you're looking at here is the mixed refuse from all kinds of people that are called in the industry are called self-haulers, and they are people who make their livings a lot of times by doing small scale cleanups and so on, and they run around with these little trucks and they pick up stuff, and then they go to the landfill and pay a tipping fee because it costs money to landfill and it's become very expensive. And you can see here what's the constituent elements of this. There's a lot of plant debris, the green stuff that is, and then you see a bunch of dimensional lumber. You could sell that stuff for probably 50 cents a linear foot, but there it is in the landfill. Then there's a whole lot of stuff you can't really even identify, but it might include something like a diamond ring or whatever, because there's so much that gets dumped that people don't even know what it is. So let's move to the next one. And this was the tipping face, and this was the upper part. Now we're up above the tipping area. The tipping area was tipping into a big hole in the landfill at the end of a certain amount of time when, depending on incoming traffic, a bulldozer would come and push all that stuff out onto the landfill. And all those little white dots, those are seagulls. And all the things on the horizon out there are sailboats on San Francisco Bay. And that mountain in the background is Mount Tamalpais. You can see the vintage of these trucks. This is when we started, 1980 roughly. And lots of immigrants become self-haulers. Next.
I wanted to say one thing about that landfill.
Yeah,
It was built in the 1920s and it is unlined. So
Yeah.
they just went out and put riprap in a rectangle and they said fill here in the middle. And all the stuff on the bottom just keeps getting compressed and it spreads out horizontally into San Francisco Bay.
Right. So Berkeley, being the city it is, had one of the very first ordinances that mandated salvaging for reuse. And that went against the grain very much because at the time, the Environmental Protection Agency, and I still have a magazine that they put out, so telling landfill operators what to do. And they said one of the things you don't want to let anybody do is salvage anything. And the point that they were making was, and the reason for that, obviously from a point of view of somebody that didn't know what they were talking about, is that it's too dangerous. Well, it sounds like it would be, and certainly it was at one point. For example, when I was there, I violated that principle several times. And at one point, a county employee jumped on a bulldozer and made a run at me. And if I wouldn't have gotten, he raised up the blade of the thing and was coming at me real fast. And if I wouldn't have jumped out of the way, he would have run over me. And that was, so I always think about that when I think about the EPA saying,
It's too dangerous.
salvaging
Yeah,
is too
well,
dangerous. Yeah, it is when you coach your staff to go after the salvagers. So
murder,
anyway,
it's the
we
Wild
became
West.
salvagers. So yeah, and since then we have had an outstanding um, experience modification rate. That's what the workers' comp industry uses to measure how risky you are. And if you can get around 0.70, that means you're 0.30 uh, from the average for your category of business in terms of claims made for injury, workplace injury. So we are typically 0.30 below the average for workplace injury, despite the fact that every day the landfill, the transfer station now is open. We put 3 people there on the floor salvaging. It's possible to do it very, very safely. It takes a lot of work to do that and a lot of coordination with whoever the employees are that are pushing the stuff, but you can do it. Next. Now, we realized after a while, and it didn't take all that long, that we were one of the things we wanted to do, and one of the things that was easy to do, was go after metals. So here, well, here you see our first investment in teaching the public what to do. That little sign cost $25 to have it painted. And right away, as soon as we put it up by the side of the road, people started dumping their refrigerators and washing machines and stoves right there. And that meant that we didn't have to go down to the bottom of that hole and pull everything out. So this was a labor saving innovation, but it also lets you know that when you teach people what to do, they do it. Next. So that's me on the right in a pair of pants that I found. I like those things. They were red corduroy. But I'm working with a woman named Yaney McIver, who was one of the early people that we hired. In the background, you see about a 40-yard dumpster, and it's probably full of metals, but that's mostly steel and iron. The stuff in the foreground is in that barrel, that rusty barrel, is all aluminum. That's a type of aluminum called sheet aluminum. It's thin. And so, that has one price, and an extrusion has another price, and so on. So we had in this case, we had cleaned that metal and then put it in these barrels, and then we would then haul it off to a metals buyer and get paid for it. And that was one of the ways we made a living, was salvaging metals and getting paid to do it by selling commodity. Next.
Actually, we just made a deposit this morning with 2 metals checks from last week that were $2,000 each.
I think, no, it ended up, I think, 6,000.
Oh,
Actually.
really?
So it just, yeah, it was 6,000.
Yeah.
So
So we have like 30 some categories of metals that we sell because our salvagers are they're trained in metals upgrading. So
But
they can take low grade metals and upgrade them for better income.
But on the other hand, rather than sell for scrap, in the foreground there, you see, for example, a turkey cooker down at the bottom of that photo. Well, you could sell that for scrap, but it'd be worth about a nickel or less. However, if you sell it as a reusable item, you might be able to get $4 or $5. If you had water and you could clean it up, you might be able to get even more. So the whole thing with reuse is that it's way more valuable than commodities. And so nowadays, our income from metal salvage, which is considerable, is still a very, very small part of our income. Most of our income comes from selling reusable goods. And when you're doing that, when you're selling for reusable or selling reusable goods, you're bargaining, you're talking to the customer's saying, oh, well, I don't have enough money today, but how about $2 for that thing? And you say, well, no, come back tomorrow and see if it's still here. And then they say, well, how about 250? And so on. So you bargain, and we teach our staff to do that. That we bargain in all sorts of ways, and we call our markets a handshake market because we're really talking to our neighbors, we're talking to our friends. Next.
Well, it's also one of the big differences between reuse and recycling. In recycling, you have a 20-yard bin full of cans or bottles or whatever, newspapers or upgraded paper, but and you sell binfuls to one paper broker. But in reuse, you sell individual objects to individuals, which is what makes it the handshake market that Dan is talking about. A
Yeah.
market is made when you agree on a price.
I'll give
So
you a startling example of reuse. One of the biggest checks we ever got was for, $10,000, which actually went to a rare paper dealer, because we salvaged from the Berkeley transfer station records from the first NAACP chapter west of the Mississippi River. This stuff was brought, it was all papers and stuff, and it was valuable, and it was brought to the transfer station and dumped. And one of our salvagers noticed what it was. He actually went on to get a Ph.D. in psychology, so he was a bright guy. And then we went to the home and we got that stuff for $200. And we turned it over to a rare paper dealer, and he sold it to the Bancroft Library for $10,000, and it came from the transfer station.
the thing is that people don't realize the old folks died, and there were boxes of correspondence and such in the attic, and the kids came from the other coast, and they had, a few days to clean out the house and get it ready for the real estate broker. So what is all this? Oh, that's grandpa's old letters and stuff. Oh, just dump those. And that's what they did. And we were fortunate enough, we had somebody on the scene who recognized this is valuable. This is really a treasure. So they salvaged it. We salvaged it. We got it and we rescued it and we saved it for, whoever wants to know about the history of the NAACP, which is a lot of people.
So here's one of our very first trucks. That's a bread truck. You used to see those things driving around the Bay Area, and we would fill the truck's tires with foam, because driving on the landfill, you'd get flat tires, and oh my gosh, when you get a flat tire out there, that's not an easy thing to take care of. So what we'd do is we'd pay about $500 a tire and have them filled up with foam. The nice thing about trucks like this is that they have a very low bed, and they're really durable. I mean, you can see this one's been bashed up quite a lot from its experience out there at the dump. The guy in the foreground is one of our oldest employees. He died a few years back
Just
now.
last year.
He was with us for what, 35 or 40 years.
About 35 years, yeah. Mhm.
Rodrigo Valdivinos, a very loyal guy, very
It was
strong.
several years before we found out that his real name wasn't Salvador. He called himself, he's the savior.
So let's move on. That's our first reuse yard, and you can see that it's a lot of it is building materials, but there's a lot of other things sticking out over there too. I would sell just about anything that I could sell. I'm the guy in the yellow hard hat there, and those are some of our first racks that we built to take care of things like window sashes. The window sashes, back then we were getting $5 and $10 a piece for. Now we get 30 and 40 a piece for them. And there's a strong market for them. And lots of other things like that. So you have to build racking for all that. And one of the things we learned over time was to build racking that was portable, because we kept getting kicked out of places that we were occupying when somebody wanted to use it for some other purpose. So next,
Dan,
you, your
could
turn.
I take over for a minute or
Yeah,
two?
yeah, please do.
We have 12 minutes before I've got to take off. So,
Okay, go.
okay, so this is that same sales area that you were looking at, and Dan ran it and learned to sell building material. I remember when he came home one day and he said, "Did you know there are different kinds of doors?" Well, now we have 20 some categories and several thousand doors. And the accumulation, we don't want to turn our inventory over real fast. We don't care if it turns over fast. What we want to do is keep it until it sells, because somebody will come to our place looking for something old. That's what they come for. And we have a big collection, and so they come. But we had, okay, so the yard where he was working, number one on the sort of middle lower right, that was where Dan was working. And then we lost that lease. And they wanted to build a restaurant there. They ended up actually building storage units there. But they kicked us out and we had to move. So we moved to location 2. And we were there for 1 year. That was in a floodplain. And we had a 100-year flood that ended up burying the doors in about a foot of mud. And then we had to move a couple of, we were actually occupying university property. And it turned out that the guy who was renting it to us wasn't supposed to do that. So we then had to leave that and we moved to site number 3, which was a very good site. And we evolved there and we kept getting a little larger. So we had to do a lot of moving, and as Dan says, we developed racks that were designed to be moved by, we had architect designed door racks designed to be moved with forklifts. But we also had to become very political. We were founded based on politics because the city called us into existence with their 1976 solid waste management plan. They wanted salvaging for reuse, which nobody was doing. And a nonprofit started up and they failed. And we arose from their ashes and we made it work. And it was hard. But we kept having to fight for our life. And in 1980, for example, the city planned a garbage incinerator, just a small one at 400 tons a day. Well, that was about what the landfill was taking in, and we had to fight it. And so and the city council wouldn't even meet with us to talk about it. They voted procurement. Let's go ahead to buy this garbage incinerator. I don't think we knew Paul Connard at the time. Boy, that would have been a big help. But we didn't know him at the time, and we had to do it on our own without his British jokes. But we did it, and we went over the heads of city council. We went to the citizens, and we set up a citizens initiative, and we got more than 60% of the vote. And our slogan was, "Give recycling a chance," because the conventional wisdom of that day was you can only recycle 35% of what goes into a landfill, and you might as well burn the rest. Oh, it's energy generation. Isn't that sustainable? Well, no, it's not. You're burning your resources. So we said, no, better to try to recycle them first, and we won. And we don't have any more incinerator in the city of Berkeley. Our campaign involved publishing, and this is Dan Knapp's yellow book that seems to be everywhere, is what one of our opponents called it. And it's based on information, and he had lots and lots of footnotes. Berkeley is a university community, and they respond to footnotes. And Dan had lots of them. And he had lots of documentation, and it was very persuasive. And we also had a brilliant illustrator in town. And this is her cover for Resource Recycling, Resource Recovery, What Recycling Can Do, which is a a little book that was commissioned by a California state agency that opposed incineration, and that's where I used to work, and that's where Dan and I met, actually, is when I was a bureaucrat. And he came to speak to our agency, and I was his project manager. We discovered we worked together very well. And I stayed with him, and the agency went behind. And now the agency is no more. But one of the things they did, they opposed incineration, but then they ran into political money because somebody wanted to build an incinerator south of San Francisco and threw $1,000 a plate dinner for some politicians, and they invited the governor of the state of California to their dinner. And when he came away from that dinner, our agency no longer opposed incineration. And so this book that my agency had commissioned from Dan, they didn't want to publish it. They wanted to deep six it. So Dan still had the copyright, and we published it ourselves. But this cover is all about tipping fees and why it doesn't. Garbage is 100% funded by tipping fees, and they keep complaining that recycling wants subsidies, but they are 100% subsidized. So it's pretty odd. And this is the illustration that our illustrator Nancy Gurrell came up with. Brilliant. And you got to have fun. So we did a comic book called The Lone Recycler, which was an anti-incineration comic book. And the last few issues we gave away to PBS to go along with their promotional kits to their stations to promote recycling. So this got distributed all over the country to people who run TV stations. So in the next few years, we helped defeat 6 garbage incinerators, passed 2 more citizens initiatives. We helped ban incineration, set a 50% recycling goal, and set up a county agency to fund recycling based on surcharges to landfilling fees in Alameda County. And then, but we continued, boy, we were working really hard. And we continued to run the operation. This was our first open air market next to the transfer station. We got to occupy the land that the incinerator was supposed to go on, which was nice. That was fun. So we had to move from the dump to the transfer station. That sales operation in 1983, and that's what it looked like. So we kept moving all this stuff around. Moving is hard. And the landfill was distant, 45 miles away. So there's San Francisco Bay, all that filled in, all those little waves. And then you go up the creek to the Altamont landfill, which is at the headwaters of rivers. If you look around in California, there are a lot of landfills that are at the headwaters of creeks. And if you're in I'm from Michigan, and I remember pits, mining pits basically that got filled in by dumps. Well, guess what? There's water at the bottoms of those pits. So what are we doing? We're polluting the groundwater with landfills. So the landfill is far away. And then we started salvaging at the all new transfer station that was built where we got to salvage on a concrete floor instead under a roof instead of out under the sun and rain. Much nicer. Dan, do you want to take it away?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm happy to have you keep going because you're going to run out of.
I am running out of time.
I'll be sticking around, everybody, if you want to talk some more.
Yeah, Dan can stay. I have to leave because we have a union bargaining session at 5:30. Like in 35 minutes, and I'm the host, so I've got to get down to work. So,
Go ahead.
so we enjoyed salvaging at the transfer station, very good stuff. Meanwhile, we were selling next door on the place that was supposed to go to an incinerator, and the city incubated us. We had been called into existence by their call in the 1976 plan, And then they incubated us by giving us free rent on, it was a couple of acres. It was out, most of it was out in the sunshine and rain, but it was paved. Oh, that's luxury. So there we were. And when we started earning more than $11,000 a month, then we paid 10% of the amount over 11,000 as rent to the city. So that kind of incubation service is a huge municipal boost for our kind of function. It was a very, very useful thing that they did. And they were very forward. They're not so forward thinking all the time, but they were at that moment. But in 1989, we left that transfer station and moved about 6 blocks away to where we had already moved. We had already moved the building materials to that location 3 that I showed in the map. And then the warehouse next door became vacant. And so we moved the Second Street, the transfer station sales area, into that warehouse. And so we had an outdoor and an indoor sales area adjoining. And that was so nice because we brought the 2 parts of urban art together, and we could offer anything for sale. You know, on the left, we see Alfonso Maldonado. He was still working for Urban Ore in 2015. He's retired now. And that shot on the right, I took that shot, and I just was very happy to have this artist. He was trying to figure out, could he use this for his installation? He had taken all of those mannequin parts we had a laundry bin, and it was labeled body parts. So he had laid all these arms out on the floor. He was trying to figure out what he would do with them. As artists' materials go, you just can't beat reusable goods. Artists just love the place. They'll haunt it. And we were there for 10 years, but then we lost, we had 2 landlords, and we lost one of the leases, and it was hard to move. It's hard to move all that stuff because you accumulate more. You know how it is in your house. You stay there a long time and stuff just accumulates. Well, if you're a business devoted to accumulating stuff, it accumulates, and we had a lot of it. So it was difficult to find a good location in town because Berkeley is a very expensive place to live, and it's a very expensive place to find commercial property. And it took 2 years, and it was hard, and we had separated operations for a while, and we got funding from Stop Waste, the agency that we had. We got as a for-profit organization, we got a grant from the agency that we had helped set up. And we got long-term low-interest loans from the city and a grant from the state of California for using reused building materials in construction. That's pretty much of a natural. And we upgraded this giant building, 30,000 square foot building, and we did earthquake retrofitting. And we moved there in 2002. And then in 2009, at the end of 2008, it was the Great Recession, and our landlord, who had never wanted to sell before, offered it to us for what was really a bargain price. And we said, you betcha. And it took us a while to put a financing package together. We got 100% financing to buy our 2.5 acre property. We occupy 3 acres, and we own 2.5 of that. And we don't ever want to move again. Site stability is a big deal. So that's the sunshine at the bottom of the slide there is where we live now, and that's the building. And the place where we started salvaging the landfill. The landfill has become Cesar Chavez Park out in the middle of San Francisco Bay. And we know what's under there is bad. And you just don't want to do that to this miraculous little planet whizzing through a vast cosmos of nothingness. And we have this beautiful planet of living oceans and living forests and life. It's not out in the cosmos. And what are we doing to it? So we're not very pleased. I mean, it looks nice the park looks nice on the surface, but we know what's under there. And here's Rodrigo again. This is salvaging at the dawn. This is what, if you're a salvager, we call it the big store. And this is what you face if you go to the big store to salvage, although it looks better now because the city of Berkeley has broken out receiving areas and tipping areas for lumber and for recyclables and cardboard and for yard debris. So if you take all those components out of this jumbled, garbage is a manufactured product. You take all the reusables and recyclables and put them in a single container and mix and mash. And that's the process of manufacturing garbage out of resources. So if you look at the uncompacted resources, you can still separate a lot of it. It's not, if you try to recycle the stuff from a packer truck, it's unscrambling eggs. But if you take the things that have been brought by self-haulers, they're not mashed. They have not been packed together by a compactor truck. So it's much easier to salvage from self-hauled materials, which is what he's facing there. Wait a minute. Where have I gone? Oh, no.
Hey, you did it, Mary Lou. You can.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No.
You got all this other stuff.
Yeah, here we go. I'm going to just trot through here. Okay, so here are the guys who do pickups. And I love this picture because it's two guys and a slate top pool table. Oh my God. And the guy on the right, he's got on a t-shirt that on the back of it says, pain is weakness leaving the body. So they oh my God. And here's Dan hiding behind a door. He's receiving doors. It's what our receiving area looked like at that moment. At our other receiving door, here's 1-800-GOT-JUNK guys. They get paid to pick all this stuff up. They get paid by the customer who wants their house cleaned out. But if they can keep their stuff in very good shape, they can bring it to us and sell it. And here's one of those guys receiving money from the stuff that they brought us, and they get to pocket that money. So, rewards modify. We have a sociologist who invented this company, and he says rewards modify behavior. In some ways, it doesn't matter if it's $1 or $100. You look at your palm and you see money crossing your palm, and it comes from urban ore. Oh, I'll try that again. And if you display it, it took us a long time before we actually understood that we're in the retail trade. So here's what we looked like when we found that out. And here's our late building materials manager, Eddie Jones. He could sell and sell. He was the king of protocol, and we sell. And here was, at one point, this is what we've reconfigured the floor, and it's not quite as charming now, but it packs in more stuff now. And this is what we look like. There's a lot. And the fact of having a huge inventory is a draw for customers. It's the mall effect. You can come and find an organization. You want it to be organized. And here's the scrap metal. This is Samuel Melendez. He's still the manager of the salvage and recycling department.
And those are extrusions. That's what's called extrusions.
Aluminum and those are like window frames. And if you look at an aluminum window frame, it's not worth nearly as much the way you're looking at. If you take your screwdriver and remove the steel screws from the aluminum frame, you get more. It sells for a higher per pound amount. So here was our income graph from the beginning in 1981 is the first year I've got there, and 2015 was the latest year I show in this graph. Last year, and so that was just under 2.8 million. It was like $2.7 million annual income. Last year we brought in 3.4 million. So we're still growing. It's not as fast, but we're still growing. And it's the triple bottom line. Our business functions on the triple bottom line: planet, people, and profit. We're labor intensive. Boy, are we labor intensive. More than 50% of our income. Last year, actually, we lost money. And that was because we had hired too many people. And labor was staff costs were 72% of income, and we lost money, and so we have to control the costs. So we have to reduce that. But you know, you have to be careful how you control costs because it's people. We're very it's labor intensive, it's not capital intensive, and you just have to treat people well but still control the costs. And now in recent years, instead of sharing 9.5% of income, we shared 15% of income. I'm going to union bargaining. We got unionized by the International Workers of the World, the Wobblies, and they are conducting class warfare against us, according to a philosophy that was invented in the early 20th century. And so we have become what they have declared us to be. We are the enemy. We were sharing 15% of income, and they don't want to do that anymore. And now they only want to share 5% and have a higher base rate. So there's a lot of discussion that we're having and have been having for a couple of years. Oops. And then we also share, so we share income. People work really hard. We expect people to work hard, and they do work hard. And then on the next paycheck, they get a reward for that. They get a share of the income that they help generate. Everybody gets an equal share according to the number of hours they worked. Everybody is an hourly worker. Nobody's a wage slave under, Dan and I are the oligarchs, and we're not very good at it. We are not the richest guy in the world. So
Maybe it's 510.
okay, I've got to get out of here. So we use the profit to build the enterprise. We have a lot of community benefits financially. In 2014, it added up to 528,000. It's much more now, especially because of sales taxes. We pay a lot more in sales taxes and a lot more in payroll taxes.
30,000 a month in sales taxes.
Yeah, and about 8,000 tons a year, not landfilled. And we do a lot of publishing and educating, and we do advertising. This is another advertisement. This is the 12 master categories, market categories that Dan is a sociologist. He made it in Who's Who in Who's Who in engineering. Science and engineering, yeah. Who's who in science and engineering? It's usually hard sciences, and Dan's a sociologist. A big treat to get into that who's who, because he invented these 12 categories that have been tested empirically by the city of Berkeley, who hired a disinterested contractor, and using Dan's categories, nothing left out, nothing left over. It's comprehensive, and it's designed to retrieve marketable resources. It's a wonderful set of categories. And we use those categories designing zero waste community scale facilities. And there he is. He's the head miner. Waste isn't waste until it's wasted. So that's our story.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my
Very,
treat.
very inspiring. And Mary Lou, there are questions, but we know you have to go. So
I do, but Dan can answer anything.
okay.
Yeah.
But I just want to I want to leave you with something Brenda wrote in the chat, Brenda Platt.
Hey, Brenda.
Yeah, she said she has to leave to join her family for dinner, but it's a pleasure to listen in tonight. Dan and Mary Lou are national treasures.
As is Brenda Platt. So
Yeah, she is.
yes,
Also.
she is. She is. And Paul Connor's an international treasure. So I will be going.
Thank you for all your
Thank you.
amazing work, and for I personally recognize your model in something local here, Community Forklift. And
Oh, yes, those guys are good.
I imagine that you've influenced a whole bunch of similar operations. So, okay, we'll ask all our questions to Dan, but
Yeah.
thank you both so much for all your work
Dr. Orr
and for
knows
joining us
everything.
today.
Well, our treat, a
No,
big
our
treat.
treat.
It's real nice. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
and good luck with your next meeting.
Oh, yes, that's going to be harder. Thank you very much.
Uh, Dan, a couple questions that Yayoi actually posed in the chat. I don't know if you've had a chance to see them yet, but one is noting that you operate as a for-profit, but many in the reuse space, actually including Community Forklift that I just mentioned, I think, are default to nonprofit models. And so she was interested to know, what are the advantages and challenges of staying independent and self-sustaining financially?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think that the most important thing to say about it is that neither model should be the dominant one. You need both. And people gravitate to different models, business models. The nonprofit model is one thing, the for-profit model is another. There's all sorts of tax consequences that you can either take advantage of or a lot of them are things where if you're a for-profit, you pay more taxes than a nonprofit, for example. But then there's the whole business of how do you operate the whole thing too. And in our case, I don't know that I made a real serious effort to try to understand for-profit versus nonprofit. I just had two partners who, one guy was a former stockbroker and the other one had learned business at Wharton School. And I deferred to them because I am a sociologist and I was having a hard time even understanding that I was in a business because sociology and business are like oil and water. I had a lot of professors who would tell you that, oh, businessmen are just all Babbitts, if you ever heard of that book by Sinclair Lewis, I think. It's about a salesman, and he's sort of a miserable guy, as I recall. It's been a long time since I read that, but at any rate, I'm learning. Here I am out there learning that it's really fascinating being in business, and I just kind of chose to go along with them because they were already in the business world. But it turned out that I had a lot of the background that I had that probably made the most sense in terms of what I do now was a paper route. I had a paper route for 3 or 4 years, and I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go down to the post office with a bunch of other boys, and we all had our territories, and I had to go and find my own customers and convince them to take the Portland, Oregon in, and then when they took it, I'd deliver it on a daily basis before school, and then on the weekends I would go and collect the money and turn it over to somebody, and I had to learn cash management. So it was a little tiny version of what I do, and I think it was very influential. So neither of those things are, you should never get into the trap of thinking one's better than the other.
Yeah.
There's all of it.
Yeah, there are advantages in terms of how you get financing on one model versus another.
Yeah,
But that's interesting to hear your evolution in that area.
beware of
How you,
beware of binary thinking when you have 5 variables.
spoken like a real sociologist. A couple other questions that have come in. Jill just asked, Jill Berman, do you provide health insurance for your workers?
Yes, we do. Kaiser Plan, Platinum, Dental, and the Kaiser Plan is all staff and all dependents. And yeah, that's all paid for by money that we make selling reusable goods and scrap, but mostly reusable goods.
Fantastic.
So yeah, you should really, one of the things you got to think about is how much we call it waste, all right, but it's actually all this stuff that it's about 95% recyclable and it's valuable and it generates tax money and it generates jobs. And it's just nuts that we have a landfill industry that's it's still got way too much influence over how discard management is done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right now I'm on the high horse saying, Democratic Party, you're having a hard time getting yourselves back from the mire you find yourself in now, having lost the last election. I love Kamala Harris. I think she's would have been a great president. Sorry that she didn't make it. But, fundamentally, what the Democratic Party needs to do for a winning strategy is to say, we need to replace every old 35-year-old transfer station that's now outmoded and falling apart with new 12 category zero waste transfer stations with reuse at the front, recycling next, composting next, and wasting last. All those things are design principles that we have shown how to do because we've done about 30 designs in different countries, even in New
Yeah.
Zealand, in Australia. One of my best friends, my college roommate, was an architect, and he and I knew each other really well and worked together really well. And he wasn't interested in becoming a salvager, but he was fascinated with what I was doing. And meanwhile, I could turn my ideas into something like he designed our racks that are designed to be moved around with a forklift. And the key to that holding them together was that he used lag bolts instead of nails. If you use nails on something like a rack that's supposed to hold 2,000 pounds of doors and the doors start moving, pretty soon you've got a pile of lumber. But our
Yeah.
racks, we've got some racks that are 30 and 40 years old and they're still in use. And they're held together with lag bolts. Well, that was an architect who had it was like no job is too small. he, he was a small is beautiful kind of guy.
We have a few more questions.
Yes.
Maybe we could do sort of lightning round
Yeah.
questions. Actually, let me just pose all three. So we wanted to break for a few minutes of our social time. So let me just put them out there, and whichever ones you can answer quickly. Yayoi, unless you want to skip the breakout session this time.
Either way is fine with me. I'd kind of like to, check in with people if I can, see how people are doing. But this is a rare opportunity to hear from this great national treasure.
Okay, let's try to do lightning round,
Yes,
and we'll leave a few minutes for the social time, the breakout sessions. So here we go. What would you oh, this is not an easy one. Okay, why aren't our politicians talking about incorporating salvage into all garbage collection? Well, you sort of answer that in a way with the design that you're suggesting. That's one question. Another one is, what would you advise someone wanting to start an enterprise like this in their own area? The person asking is asking about North Carolina, Lori. Another person is asking, how many similar operations are there in the country? I was wondering that too, knowing about community forklift near me. So let me see if you think you could answer those quickly. If not, we won't rush and go ahead, and we'll move our breakouts to next time.
Well, every single state has probably has a recycling trade association. And one of the ways you can learn what's going on in your area is to join. And even if you don't go to meetings, you can get their newsletters. And they're usually packed full of all sorts of information. So you can learn a lot about what's going on. And I must say that the field has grown so big and so fast, and it's so, I mean, it's a gigantic industry now. It's way more. There was a long time ago when we compared ourselves to the auto industry, and we went past that in terms of gross receipts. We're huge, and but it's also the case that it's here today, gone tomorrow, that kind of thing. And that is a dominant way of looking at things. So when you're in the refuse business, you're basically, in some cultures you're called a Dalit, or an untouchable. You know, I used to go to conferences and I'd run into somebody from India or something, and I'd say, hi, and I'd start shaking their hand and I'd say, and by the way, I'm a Dalit. And there'd be this kind of funny look that would pass over their face while they digested the fact that he and I are shaking hands. So,
Yes.
there's a whole lot of that. There's also the influence of money, and the influence of money comes from the garbage industry having a lock on the disposal marketplace in many places. That's breaking up now, but we are all in recyclers, reusers, composters, and wasters are all in the same business, and it's called um, um, it's called what?
Disposal.
Disposal. It's called disposal. So we're all in the disposal business because we dispose of things legally. And but on the other hand, in many places, it's very hard or illegal even to charge for services that you provide as a reuse enterprise or a building, anything like that. We've broken that down here, but still the garbage industry carries a lot of weight, and they have a lot of money to throw around. They help sports teams. They do all sorts of things to burnish their image, and a lot of times recyclers are struggling to just keep track of payroll. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of work to be done on the finance side. There's a lot of work to be done on the physical side. We need to replace all the old transfer stations with new 12 category uh, zero waste facilities. That's a huge thing, and that would have an enormous impact on rural America, because even in rural areas, smallest one we ever worked on was Manzanita, Oregon, population 600. They started a little reuse facility. It went for 25 or 30 years, and it was called Cardam. And they just, once, and they even ran the local transfer station, which was really a kind of a combination of landfill and transfer station. And so you can do it on a big scale or a small scale. You can do it anywhere. And it would have a really revitalizing impact on rural America if the Democratic Party were to put this, top of the agenda for the next, the midterms, and run with it, run hard with it, and bring us in to tell all the advantages. We'll talk until we're blue in the face. We'll talk until you can't listen to us anymore. You'll be all tired of listening to us. But what the heck? We're here. That's what we're here for. I love doing this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There are more questions coming in. Is it okay if we send these to you?
Yeah.
Because they're coming in as you're speaking. I just want to tell you one quote, if you haven't seen it, by Lori, who mentioned that to her son in San Francisco that she was listening to you, and she wrote that he said in all caps, "There is no place on earth like urban ore." So
Well,
you are well known and well loved.
well, there's no doubt that's true to a certain extent, but your community forklift is one of the places that I think of when I think about What other facilities like us are there? It's a perfect example. And every one of us, entrepreneurs are funny, they're quirky people, and they do things according to their own desires, and they might have an idea that they were pursuing or something like that that takes them off in some kind of wild, sort of speculative direction. And so they end up with different business models. And the concept of business model is a really big one. Um, and you can have all sorts of business models.
Yeah.
It's not that one's better than another or anything like that, or you should just stamp them out like cookie cutters. It's a place where the creative manifests itself on a daily basis, both with customers, with staff, and with the management. All those areas are areas where creative impulses get a chance to really show what they can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's asking in the chat what community forklift is, and I would say it's what you're doing, except there's a little bit less of the salvaging, and there's more that they are, from what I understand, and you maybe know better, they are a depot for construction projects, the deconstruction projects,
Yeah.
where you've got the possibility of buying customers, whether they're individuals or companies, uh, doing a remodel, they can go and buy doors, sinks, furniture, all kinds of construction materials, appliances. And
Yep.
that is an NGO, and there's an aspect to it where they help the community. For example, they were collecting last summer air conditioners for people who wanted to donate air conditioners. It was really hot here, as it was in a lot of parts of the country. So it is an NGO, and I know they get some portion of grant funding.
Yeah, we get
Okay,
very little in the way of grant funding. Our money comes from selling. And again, our compensation system is a real important part of that. It 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 rewards honesty, and one of the things you're dealing with in this industry is that there's a lot of under the table stuff that goes on. And
yeah,
early on, being a novice and a naive guy in the way of business, I decided to read a business book, and the very first one I ever read was called Honest Business.
mm,
And it was something that appealed to me as the idea that I wanted to have for this company. And so I moved into an area where on a daily basis you can get solicited by somebody to make me a deal. I'll meet you after work. I'll pay you off. Drop the price. Do this, do that. That happens, and there's a lot of economies in the world that are based on that. That's the way trade is done. It's all kind of under the table, and
yeah,
they don't really have an effective tax system, for example. But we pay all of our taxes, and that's the thing. We run an honest business. We keep track of every penny that we can because that's our obligation as a business. So we pay sales taxes, 30,000 a month right now is the average. Um, Property taxes, 150,000 a year. Oh, more than that, because we've got two properties. We have to pay the landlord's property tax on the other one. Because we have a triple net lease. Oh boy, another wonderful manifestation of capitalism, where you pay the landfills, the landowners um, property tax for them. Anyway, on and on and on. I could go on about this for a long time. I know a
can
lot
I,
about the underbelly of capitalism. I think that what we are is a significant modification of capitalism. It's capitalism without greed. Mary,
mm,
neither one of us are the highest paid employees at Urban Ore. Not even close. We're down around 9 or 10. And
yeah,
that's because the system rewards the people who make the money. And we have chosen to go to a salaried position because we're too old to be, out there humping stuff like I used to do doors. Well, we've got 6,000 doors. Oh, holy shit. That's really a lot.
Incredible. Wow. Okay, I'm going to use my moderator prerogative to, we don't have time to do the breakouts. I want to offer anyone who wants to stay overtime and just do a quick check-in. We can do that, but I want to officially close the meeting and thank you, Dan. It's been such a pleasure to listen to you. It is very inspiring. I certainly for me, and I'm guessing for everyone on this call. And I think we could go on with you for a couple more hours because I've been moderating our meetings for a while and I've never seen this many questions come in. So if we can trouble you to send our questions to you in writing and then we can distribute the answers to everyone on the call, we would love to,
Yeah, okay,
do
write them
that
up
if that's
as,
okay.
write them up as questions and double space, and then I'll do an interleaving kind of thing and answer them to the best of my ability. How's that?